William is not going to be here tonight, but at the same time too, we're gonna have a great show. And let me introduce myself. My name is Clinton James. I'm your local real estate broker, and I always tell everybody where they can find me. You can find me on the corner of working on myself. And William is not going to be here tonight. You can find me in the corner of working on myself lane and inspiring others drive. So definitely, what I'm going to do is introduce our guest today. We have Michael. I always forget. I can't roll my R's. They always make fun of me about that. So I'll say Michael Prieto, and then we have
There we go.
Caleb Salazar out of Phoenix, the Phoenix area, and they're going to be talking about the program, the Hopper program, and how it's impacting families and how it's actually impacting not just families but people, as they pursue their home ownership dreams. And Mike and I'll pass to Michael Prieto first to introduce himself. Go ahead, Michael.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having us again, Clinton. Um, my name is Michael Prieto. Like we said, Clinton can't roll his R, so I'll roll it for him. But super excited to be here once again alongside Clinton. Kind of bummed that Will's not here tonight, but he's gonna miss out on some really good information. He'll have to catch the recording later. So thanks for having us, Clinton.
Thank you for being here. And then we have Caleb Salazar. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Caleb.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you for having me. My name's Caleb Salazar. I run the Salazar Group at Cross Country Mortgage, based out of Southern Arizona, but we do business really across all 50 states. And we've been running our team, and we're doing a great job right now. So,
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, so as you can see, we this show is all about making sure that we bring the right information to people. I mean, there's so much things that we can talk about, but tonight we want to talk about home ownership and how the program is actually and home ownership in general. You're not just going to be talking about the program itself, which is a Hopper program and a Attainable Housing Associates program, but we're going to be talking about just home ownership and stuff because that's a huge topic today. Home ownership is not just about buying a home to live. Always I always tell everybody, it's one of the three necessities of life. We don't really realize that because we see it as so unattainable sometimes, right? But it's food, clothing, and shelter. Shelter is home ownership. That's part of home ownership. And just keep in mind, you only have two options: either you rent or you own it, or you buy it to own it. So we're gonna be talking about that today. So as we start, I mean, I just wanna to start by asking a couple of questions. Now, the first a question I always ask to all our new guests, Caleb, is everybody has a real estate story. Everybody has a real estate story. Tell everybody, how did you decide that you want to get into the industrial real estate? Where did you start, and how did you decide? Hey, this is the path that I want to take, which is get into real estate and more on the mortgage side of real estate.
absolutely, no, I don't think anybody grows up as a kid thinking that they want to be a mortgage lender. I think
Right.
everybody just kind of falls into it at some point. My story really, it began in college. My dad was in the industry, and so he wasn't in the production side, wasn't in the sales side, but he told me always, the amount of times that they were having fun, that they could make great income, but that most importantly they could, help tons of families. So my biggest goal was, as I was going through the university, I wanted to do something impactful. I wanted to do something where I was helping people and making people happy, really, at the end of the day. I didn't have, the patience to go through medical school, nor the funds to do it. So I figured that, hey, real estate was going to be another opportunity. But I realized that most of my friends who were, I was growing up with, were all real estate, investors or real estate agents. So instead of, being in the mix with them and possibly competing with them, I did a little bit of research, found out that they all need somebody called a loan officer, and figured, hey, I don't know anybody who else is a lender that can help my friends out. So that's what I decided to do. And ever since then, it's just all she wrote from there. It's awesome.
Nice, nice. And ever since then, you've been hooked. They got you.
They got it. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, so one of the things too is that that's a very similar story everybody has. It's kind of either family or having some form of someone inspire them to actually do this type of job. Because I always say, I was talking to somebody today that you never need. It's like running your own business, you know. We say in this business, we eat what we kill. It's like we go hunting and then we whatever we actually we eat from there, and then we go hunting again. But at the same time too, it's a changing and ever changing industry from what I'm seeing. Um, One of the questions I have is many first time home buyers feel overwhelmed by the mortgage process right now. What are some of the biggest misconceptions like you encounter, and how do you help clients navigate through them? Because I mean, I always run to clients who they hear all this news right now going around, especially everybody is rate conscious.
Mhm.
Everybody thinks that even if it's the lending rate, and kind of explain the difference between the two rates, which is the mortgage rate and maybe the rate that we actually hear on that's been talked about on television, right? But a lot of people have this misconception about it, especially residential buyers, that yes, rates do affect your payments, but does it really affect whether or not you should buy now, or hold off on buying?
No, I think that's a great question. The biggest hurdles that we see right now are the rates, right? People, that's one of the first conversations that we have. Really, the purchasing a home is one of those things that you'll do it when you're ready, right? Doesn't matter if the rates are at 8%, if they're at 3%. If you're ready to take that jump, and most of the time it's you got to have enough of something. So you got to
Right.
say, I've had enough of renting, or I'm tired of living at home, or I'm in the scenario where I got to get out of my lease. That's usually when that happens. Now the interest rates, they can vary, right? I think to your point, the rate that we're seeing online usually come with points. So there's additional charges. So they can look pretty, but on the actual surface of it,
Mm-hmm.
rates are kind of costly right now.
Right.
Now, the way that we, try to educate our home buyers, because, this is the biggest purchase of their life. They're not going to buy a pair of shoes, they're going to buy a home.
Right.
Uh, it all takes that personal touch. So about 90% of our consultations end up being either face to face in our office, or because we do a lot of business across the state,
Mm-hmm.
we also do a lot of Zoom calls, right? Making sure that they fully understand exactly what they're getting into. One of the things that we talk about recently is, if you're getting, for example, a 6.5% mortgage rate, that's great, but don't think of that's going to be your rate for the full 30 years or the full, 15 years of your mortgage. That's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a rate that you're probably going to carry for anywhere between 1 or 2 years. Now, if you make, for example, an additional, $100 payment every single month to your principal
Mm-hmm.
balance, that completely changes the interest rate that you actually have. Because when you look at the amortization, how much interest are you actually paying? That's really important with how much you're actually putting up, especially on the monthly payment. So that's what we do to educate our clients. We make sure that, hey, can you afford the payment? We try to sell more so the payment than the actual rate right now,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, hey, if we adjust, X, Y, and Z in your budget, does this make sense for you? If the answer is yes, nothing is going to appreciate, and give you your return on investment like home
Mm-hmm.
ownership will, right? At least in the state of Arizona, right now, properties are appreciating about 4 to 5% year over year.
Mm-hmm.
So on a $400,000 house, that means your property is probably going to grow anywhere between $16,000 to $20,000 every single year.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty awesome,
Yeah,
considering that we have
that is
programs and
awesome.
that can help out. So
Yeah.
so that's really the biggest thing. Is when we have people who are conscious on the rate, we try to educate them, on the payment itself, and try to take the focus away from the rate, because that rate is going to change, over time. And the moment that you decide, hey, home ownership is for me, I think that kind of goes to the side, and we want to focus on what's really important, which is, selling the feeling and the goal behind home ownership.
Mm-hmm. Not nice. That's
Oh
kind of
man,
like that's like kind of like figuring out their why. Why do they want to purchase a home right now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a
uh,
story, like exactly the way that you said it.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story, and for us growing in community with a lot of minorities, that's one of the biggest accomplishments, right? Is
It is.
owning a home.
Yeah.
And so when you put that beside and you say, hey, you know what? Rates could be at 10% today, but if this is something that I'm capable of doing and it's a good financial decision for myself and my family, then that's something that we got to proceed with.
Yeah. And Michael, I mean, I forgot, but I know you've been on this show before, so it's kind of like yeah, returning guest host, So,
I
but
love it.
just for the people who are new people who are listening, tell everybody your real estate story. What made you want to get into this crazy business right now?
Oh my goodness, yeah. So similar to Caleb, you don't grow up thinking as a kid that you're going to be a mortgage loan officer,
Right.
but after exiting the military, my story was I similar situation. I wanted to help people. And that's how I landed in the actually manufactured home specific financing arena.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of like first time home buyers and down payment assistance programs, and really like the blue collar workers, that type of arena of buyers across the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually just kind of grew my mortgage career to a point where I spent about 18 years in it, and most recently left PNC Bank, where I was in the community lending division. So I was doing a lot with you, Clinton, out there, KRAB,
Yeah.
representing out in California,
Yeah.
and really just trying to bridge the gap of minority home ownership. There's too big of a gap for
Yeah.
the African Americans, the Hispanics out there, and trying to figure out ways that we could bridge that gap. And now, being at Attainable Housing Advocates, we get to connect with various lenders across the nation, even
Mm-hmm.
like Caleb, right? And
Yeah.
so I'll add that to the rate question, that what I used to try to help folks understand too is that the interest rate is going to be different for everybody, because, right, Caleb, like the interest rate is impacted by a number of factors. You've got what's your debt load versus your income stream,
Mm-hmm.
what's your credit score, right, what's the loan to value going to be on the home. Like all these factors play into what your rate actually will be. So one of those factors changes from one person to another, and now you have two different, completely different rates, even though on the surface they look pretty similar, like the
Mm-hmm.
scenarios, but one of those factors is off. And then I love what Caleb said about the fact that the 6.5, let's say the 6.5% rate example that he used, right? That's not going to be your rate for the next 30 years. Like
Right.
I remember an interesting stat when I was in lending that I learned is that the average person that owns a home refinances a property, whether that's their primary, secondary, or if they end up buying and selling more homes,
Mm-hmm.
they end up refinancing a total of 9 times in their lifetime.
Oh wow.
Think about that for a second, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
that
huge.
insane? Like,
Yeah.
there's always going to be a situation that comes up, and so really love what Caleb had to bring, and to that question. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and what this kind of bring everything that y'all been seeing together, because the stat the data shows right now, right? Because you have what they say 40% of homeowners right now are mortgage free, right? And then they say that the 60% of homeowners that are paying a mortgage are paying a rate below 5%, right?
Right.
And so when you're really looking at it, you're seeing that home ownership is working. It just shows that owning a home is working right now. Because I tell people it's not to worry about the race, but worry how you can get into that category of being a homeowner. Because at the end
Uh,
of it's a long run game. Because and this is one question I want to transition to, is because I see that there's a way that right now millennials are the I think they're the largest in the population. They was stated to or predicted to replace the baby boomers in terms of buying power, in terms of the trend in different markets and sectors. But we see in that, number one, that they are the ones who should be buying homes, but they're not. We're not seeing, and so the way how they're seeing, interpreting buying a home is different from how baby boomers will interpret buying a home. From what I'm seeing, a lot of them, it's not that they're rate conscious. They're always looking for that ROI, the return on the investment. You understand?
yeah.
They're always looking for that return, and sometimes they always talk about quick returns, right? So you'll find that most of them will invest in assets like stocks, before they'll invest in real estate. Now, how would you talk to someone like that in terms of showing them, hey, the benefit of real estate as an investment tool? How would you approach someone like that and say, hey, you know what? Because they are making, they say the average million is making over $100,000 a year, right? So, but the rate at which they're buying homes is very low compared to the rate at which baby boomers bought homes. Not to say that things are not, we see the prices of homes and things haven't changed. But how would you talk to what are some of the things that you've seen in your experience in talking to millennials that you kind of help them through or guide them through and showing them the benefit of buying home?
So, Michael, you want to take that first?
No, you go ahead, Caleb. That's your current arena, right? Like I could
Yeah,
probably
absolutely.
I could explain from a couple years back, but you're the guy on that one.
No, that's awesome. I agree. So we were actually looking at a statistic. The average home buyer, the homeowner, went from just a couple years ago from 28 years old to now it's 38 is the average home, purchaser nowadays.
Hmm.
So we're definitely seeing, millennials and maybe even some Gen Z take a step back when it comes to home ownership. What we try to do is, we try to do the education behind it, right? Especially when with myself when we're doing the consultations, we always push four pillars of wealth, and only one of those pillars is actually going to be real estate, but it is a pillar, right? And so when you look at it from a standpoint of a good foundation, you definitely want to have some real estate on your side, and it's a great thing, right? So for example, it's funny that you brought that up. This morning I was having a conversation with a millennial. We were talking about the return on whether it was a good choice to purchase a home now, whether you should wait till interest rates drop. We structured it in a way where the client was actually coming in with no money out of pocket, bought a $400,000 home. Actually, thanks to Michael and his team, we got them in. And so I asked them a question, right? Hey, you're all about investments. You're working in the S&P. S&P did great last year for anybody who had money in there.
Hmm.
I asked them, I said, hey, if this property goes up in value, $20,000, your initial investment was actually zero. What is your return at that point? And that just kind of stunned him, right? That's the purpose of homeownership, right? It's not that it's going to be continuing to grow like the S&P possibly could, but it does give you the stability long term, where all of a sudden you have a piece of real estate where if you don't, then you're always obligated to make some sort of payment one way or the other. And so when it comes to speaking with millennials, we always try to push for 5, 10, 20 years down the road to get them to visualize that because again, right? Our generation is younger, and we want those quick returns, right?
Right.
We don't. We want to see that
We
quick.
we, we, we
Um,
we call y'all the Burger King generation. You owe it.
yeah,
You owe it.
exactly. And so when we're talking to them, essentially what we're doing is we're saying, hey, you know what? If I offered you two meals, one was a microwave meal, one was a crock pot. Which one do
Hmm.
you think you're going to prefer? And so that's the way that real estate works, is that you
Yeah.
may not see the benefit today, but what are you doing? You're teaching your kids and their kids that homeownership is attainable, that it is a pillar of wealth, and all of a sudden you're doing exactly what, you know, essentially what the Bible talks about, which is passing on generational wealth, which is
Awesome. Yep.
a lot of millennials, they don't see it right away, but they're also pushing, having kids back, right? And so
Yeah.
it maybe doesn't click right away, but those are the conversations that we try to have where it's like, hey, initial investment versus what you're going to get in return. And also think 10, 20 years down the road. Do you want to be relying on somebody to make rent payments for you? Or do you want to have a piece of property that you can call your own?
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. Um, Michael, you want to take a stab at
Man, no, that was you hit the nail on the
that?
head, Caleb. Wow. I absolutely love that. I like what you said about stunning the guy with that whole concept because you're right. I mean, there's programs out there right now that you can get into a home with zero down and you're essentially in the same position that you were either way. You're either paying a rent payment or you're now paying a mortgage payment where you're building equity and realizing the appraised value over time. Like that's huge. I love
Yeah.
that, Caleb.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about couple of loan programs that are popular. Everybody kind of talks about it because I kind of learned that there's the government programs is what everybody stares in because of the low down payments. Everybody loves the fact that I can come in with zero money down, or I can only pay 3%. Right. So what are the key so the two programs that I always talk to first time home buyers about, which I always get inquiries about, is the FHA and the VA loan program. We do it in Southern California. It's kind of because we have the huge one of the largest military complexes out here. We find that VA loans are the ones that we see a lot come across our desk. We help a lot of veterans out here get into homes. But there's always a misconception in terms of FHA and VA. I mean, out here it's easy, but a lot of people, maybe in Arizona, maybe in other states, who might be listening in, might not understand that there's a big difference between the FHA and the VA loan program. And so let me ask y'all. I mean, if there's a person, and I'll give you a scenario. If there's someone who is, say, a veteran but also a first time home buyer, right? What would how would you determine whether or not the FHA or the VA program is the best option for that person? How would you, and tell us some, and let us know some of the differences or the advantages and disadvantages between those two programs. Because I always get people asking, oh, well, it's the rate. Is it rate like are those programs the rate like they get a lower rate than in either one of those programs? So just I want you all to answer based upon your mortgage knowledge. Like how would you determine what is the right program to fit somebody who is qualified as a veteran but also a first time home buyer?
I would say I love the VA home loan. I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's the best loan program out there. And the reason why I say is, my office is 10 minutes from Davis Monthan Air Force Base. It's another huge base, Air Force Base here in Tucson. We also do a lot of business with people up in Phoenix at Luke Air Force Base, which is another top, Air Force base. I would say the main benefits, right, is that as a veteran, you can take advantage so long as you have, 90 days active service. If you're in the reserves, you got to be in there for a certain amount of time. But it is one of the perks. And the reason why I think it's one of the best loan programs is not only are you coming in with the option to do zero down, because we have had, veterans who want to put some sort of down payment, which is 100%, their choice, but it gives you the option to put 0% down. It does have very competitive rates, at least at our company, Cross Country Mortgage, we're the number one lender here in America. There's a lot of VA loans that we waive, all of our fees on. And so the cost to do those loans is also very minimal. Now, on top of that, you're not paying any sort of mortgage insurance. So right off the bat, you're going to see, depending on the price of the home, anywhere between $150 to maybe $400 worth of savings. Even if the rate is the same and it's the same property for a VA home loan, you're going to see that much of a benefit for you as a client. So if you are a veteran, if you're active duty, I would say, inquire about the VA home loan. I think it's going to be your best bet. Now, is there ever a case where, you can possibly use an FHA loan? The answer is yes. And the times that we've done that, for example, is, you got a veteran who is maybe not legally married to their partner, right? So that partner, though they have income and they have credit, they can't actually be on that loan with them because they're not legally, married to that veteran. So in those cases, that's when maybe it makes sense to go an FHA route that also has minimal down payment, very competitive rates, low mortgage insurance. It has all the same perks essentially. Credit. That's when I would say that if you can go the route of the VA home loan as a veteran or as active duty, I would say do it. It's one of the benefits. You served our country. Allow us to serve you.
Nice, nice, and I like that answer too. So basically, you're saying that the VA loan is a little bit better than the FHA.
If you're a veteran, you earned it.
Definitely. I used mine right away, so I don't disagree with you, Caleb.
Right.
I will point out that maybe the alternative to if you've got that spouse or they're not legally married, or your other option is go get married really quick, right?
That's what happened before, yeah.
That's
Like that
awesome.
courthouse to do.
Yeah, courthouse to do.
Right. So yeah, so one of the things about it we going into is down payments because we gotta hit on that because that is something that's been so big right now. There's so many down payment assistance programs out there, and it's kind of like navigating through a lot of them. Some of them are government grants, some of them are actually bank grants, and some of them are nonprofits. Right now, I know y'all have one which is doing a lot of good because there's one thing I like about what the program y'all work with through the Attainable Housing Association and Hopper is that there's not too many loopholes you have to jump through, right? And then on top of that, it's something that you can implement on the front end or the back end, right? But at the same time too, many of I hear a lot of buyers now come to me and they worry about the down payments, right? They say, okay, well, I don't have a down payment, but I have great credit. I use a lot of my money to pay down my debt so I can actually have good credit. But I really want to purchase a home right now. Um, what I mean, and explain the program that you've been using that you, Caleb, have been using and killing it out there right now. um, so explain what the down payment assistance program, what programs and options are available to help first time home buyers overcome the hurdle of the down payment. I know. So let us know how does that the down payment assistance program that you all work with, how does it help buyers in terms of purchasing, right? And alleviating that big that burden of the down payment.
Absolutely. I'll just really quick give you a rundown on the different types of down payment assistance, and then I'll let you jump in and kind of give your 2 cents on Hoper, because it is a great program. So you're right, there is differences, with down payment assistance. We see the types of down payment assistance that are second liens. So that's essentially, I'm telling you, hey, you know what, I'm going to give you this, $10,000 to help you buy your home, but it's actually a loan. So there's an interest attached to that, and there's, a mortgage payment attached to that. That's one version of them. The second version is going to say, hey, you know what, this is fully forgivable, meaning that you don't have to make any payments. There's no interest rate attached to it, but I'm going to stick, a 5-year restriction period on you, meaning that if you sell or refinance within 5 years, you owe that money back in some way, shape, or form. The third is actually my favorite, which is through a nonprofit or through earned income, which I'll kind of let Michael jump in there. But essentially, there is really no strings attached, which is my favorite portion of it, because it gives clients flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like obviously the first two that Caleb described, those are typically going to come, right, Caleb, with different hoops that you have to jump through. Like I
Yeah.
think of income restrictions. Usually have to meet a certain income requirement. You
Right.
usually have to have a certain debt to income ratio requirement. You you also have to be a first time home buyer in certain cases, right? And so a lot of buyers, they find themselves in a position where maybe they have great credit, they don't have a lot of debt, but their DTI still is just a little too high for those programs, right? Or maybe I've seen situations where buyers they literally make $100 too much per year to qualify for some of those programs, and so just because of that, they're out of luck. And to Clinton's point about a buyer that comes to us and says, "Hey, look, I've got the great credit, I've got good DTI, I've got a good job, I just don't have the down payment help." And that's where, like Clinton said, the Hoper program comes in, and all of a sudden, you lose all these hoops that you have to jump through, because there's no income restrictions, right? There, you don't have to be a first time home buyer. You don't have to worry about second liens on the property. And there's no repayment or recourse on the money that you're getting from participating in the Hoper program. Caleb touched on it. It is it is earned income, so it's a lot different than when you're earning your down payment. You're actually doing something to earn it. So we're providing education for the participants that enroll. So because they go through education, they're paid, and you're in this case up to $13,000, and that's not money that ever has to be paid back, right? So yeah, that's kind of I think of a side by side comparison. Like if I had a DPA, which are really great for a lot of people out there. I'm not discounting the fact that they're out there and they're available. California, out in Clinton's area, has a bunch of down payment assistance programs.
A ton.
Both at the
Yeah.
county level, at the city level,
Yeah.
at the state level. The one problem that I do see for California a lot, though, is the fact that they run out very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Because everybody's trying to get into that pot of money. And so having a loan officer and a real estate partner in your corner, like Clinton and Caleb here, like between those two minds, you can now create an opportunity for a lot more buyers. And I love the fact that you guys can do that together.
Awesome.
That's awesome. The way that I put it, Mike, is, when I'm doing my buyer consults, because I actually just got a new contract today using Hoper, is, if I could pay you $2,000 an hour to take an education course, would you say yes? And it's like, it's awesome. Yeah, it's like, take a 6-hour class and you're going to make $13,000. Like, the
That's nice.
You're like, yeah, give me 4 classes, right?
It'd be nice if we could stack the classes on top of each other, but yeah, we're not at that level yet.
All right. Well,
That's
Caleb,
awesome.
Michael, we're about to take a break so that we can pay some bills. Yes, we have a new sponsor. Michael works with the Attainable Housing Advocates, and he has sponsored this program today. So we're about to play play the ad and pay some bills. So we'll take like a 2-minute break, and we'll come right back. 1-minute break and come right back.
Have you heard about the Hope for Home Ownership Research Program? It allows you to earn 3.5% of your home's purchase price, up to $13,000. This program is easy, and it does not slow down your home purchase or loan process. Just like other research projects, you are paid to be a part of the study. This income is eligible for use on your home purchase to cover such things as down payment, rate buy down, or even debt payoff. Spend it or save it as you see fit. Oh, by the way, the average participant also receives an additional $12,000 after closing through the Residential Clean Energy Tax Credit. If you could use up to $13,000 to help purchase a home and could benefit from an additional increased tax credit in the range of $12,000, then visit the ahagroup.org/Clinton James or call 61938-49269 for more information.
All right, we're back, and today I have Michael Salazar. No, sorry, I'm mixing up your first name and last name. Michael Pareto. I'm so scared of seeing your last name, Michael. Michael Pareto and Caleb Salazar in the show on the show today, and we're talking about. Caleb is actually a mortgage officer or loan agent, and Michael works with the Attainable Housing Advocates, which is a nonprofit program that helps people save on home ownership. So we're talking about right now we're talking about mortgages and how people can actually take advantage of getting a mortgage to purchase a home using the down payment assistance programs. But as we move forward, I want to ask a question as we continue. Is credit? We hear a lot of those. Are one of the top things that I hear a lot in when on my side of the business, where I talk with a lot of people who are thinking about buying a home. Is credit. How important is credit when applying for a mortgage, and what are some of the practical steps that you think that buyers can take to improve their credit worthiness? Because the thing about it is that we hear so many things about credit advisors out there, right? People who are saying, okay, well, I can help you boost your credit to this amount, but at the same time, too, buying a home is a little bit different. So, so I want to ask, like, how would you advise somebody who is, okay, well, I need to improve my credit? How would you advise somebody and tell them, okay, how important number one credit is to purchasing a home, and what are some of the fundamental things that they can do to improve their credit? Not to buy a car, not to buy furniture, but to actually buy a home.
Oh, absolutely. Credit is one of what we consider the three pillars when it comes to purchasing a home. We look at credit, income, and assets, right? Income, how much income are you currently making? Are you hourly? Are you salaried? Do you receive overtime, bonuses? That's one portion of it. The assets, how much money do you have saved up in a savings account, checking account, in IRAs, in retirements? That's the second pillar. The third pillar, which I would argue is probably the most important, is your credit, right? What debt do you have? How much debt are you holding? Practical ways that somebody can prepare is, I love the home buyers that are coming to us 3 to 6 months prior to when they actually are ready to purchase a home, getting this advice. And now, one of the things is just take a look at your credit cards, right? Let's talk about credit cards because that can make or break your credit score the easiest. What are the balances like? Are you using them accordingly? Are you using less than 30% utilization? Meaning that if you have a $3,000, credit limit, are you keeping that balance at least, at $1,000 or lower? That's really what's going to be the best, bet for you. If you can start chipping away at it and start keeping those balances low, I can guarantee you your credit's going to go up. The second thing, right? How many things are you co-signed on? Are you co-signed on somebody's credit that maybe they're not making payments? Maybe they're running late, because that stuff can also affect you. The third thing is really like, are you taking out tons of auto loans, personal loans, things like that can actually damage your credit? Because I will say this, we get so many buyers who show up with Credit Karma telling us that they have an 800 credit score,
Right.
and all of a sudden we do our mortgage pull and you're at a 760, right? The reason why is because we have a different system to pull credit, and it's actually more difficult and it's more strict than what you would do when you're purchasing a car or just checking a credit app. So it's really that important because it's one of the three pillars that's going to either make or break it for you, especially with down payment assistance programs. So if you are a first-time homebuyer, don't go out and buy the fancy car yet. Like, wait on that. If you have credit cards, make sure you're using them responsibly and paying the balance down and treating it almost like a debit card.
Nice. And so yeah.
Wow. I was just going to add.
Yeah.
So you have 800 borrowers that come in and they actually get pulled and they're 760s. Like
Absolutely.
I'm used to hearing the Credit Karmas that come in or that used to come in and say I'm a Credit Karma at 650, and then we'd pull it and they're like a 590. And so that I'll take a 760, right?
I mean, we'll take a 760. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, so that's one of the stories we always hear is like, okay, well, how come Credit Karma tells me this, or this credit app reporting app tells me that I'm at this level, and then you pull my credit and I'm at this level, and I know you hear it all the time. So I'm glad that you're able to kind of clarify that for our listeners and also. So the next question I have we going into where what are some of the key mistakes, right? Because that you see buyers make during the home loan process, and how can they avoid them? Because for me, I can tell you a lot of the key mistakes that the home buyers make when we're looking for homes, right? Because a lot of times when we go out looking for homes, the number one thing that everybody the number one mistake is that they always think way beyond what they can afford. They always look at things way beyond what they can afford, right? Because in their minds, they're thinking, oh, well, I'm qualified for $500,000, right? So $500,000 is most likely a home that is on the beach, looking at the ocean. They want all those things because that's what they see all the time, not understanding that there is a level based upon what you can afford with where or not really what you can afford with, but what you're qualified for, and what you're comfortable paying. You have to actually understand that there is a level that you have that a threshold basically in home ownership or what you're looking at when at a certain level of of homes that you can actually look at. You're going to see that consistently. So say like for instance in the 450 range, there's not many homes in the 450 range, right? So for me, I have to kind of now start educating them on becoming more practical about what they're looking for. Because in the 450 range, when they say, okay, well, I'm going to be paying this amount in payments, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and then on top of that, I'm going to be owing $450,000, right? It kind of discourages them a lot when they get out there in the market, not understanding that I have to kind of reframe it for them and have them understand this is your first home. It's an investment. You're not going to get what you want the first time, right? It's a step. This is a step up where you start here, and then maybe we can come up with a plan in the next 2 or 3 years because hopefully things improve where the rates go down, you pay down your principal, and then on top of that, your property value goes up. All those things can work in an alignment for you to add the next 2 years to maybe not purchase a home that you really want based upon you being able to leverage that home. So that you have right now. So it's kind of like I always have to kind of take them and reframe it for them a lot of times because the expectations. I think one of the biggest mistake is not having the proper expectations set for for a lot of these buyers. What are you seeing in mortgages? What are some of the key mistakes you see home buyers make?
That's awesome. And the word expectations, I think, is always popping in my head, especially during our consultations, right? Before we ever talk about, qualification or numbers, I always ask them, ask the couples, ask the young first-time home buyers, what is an affordable monthly payment for you? Or what have you already budgeted in your head? Because that's really going to be the dictator on how we're going to proceed. At the end of the day, we have a phrase, that my team uses is that we want the house to be a blessing for you, not a burden.
Right.
So we don't want you maxing out your qualification if that's not something that you have in mind. Because we, explain it to them. Qualification is very different from affordability, right? You can qualify for $500,000, but based off of what you're telling me and based off of the spending habits that I'm seeing off of your bank statements, you can actually afford 350, right? And so having those very real, raw conversations with clients, a lot of lenders neglect that, and I think that it ends up biting them in the butt. And especially with the home buyers, it ends up being one of the huge mistakes because all of a sudden, we get a call 1 or 2 years down the road saying that, they can't afford the home anymore, or they're behind on payments, or, they're not able to save. And so, again, one of the 4 pillars that we teach is real estate. The other stuff is, investing and wealth management. And that's really what we push for. So that's probably the number one mistake that I see, home buyers make is that one, are going based off of a qualification and they're not fully understanding the numbers, or they come into it, so haphazardly, I think, that they just want to purchase something, when in reality, you are signing an agreement to
Mm-hmm.
repay this loan, so make sure that you can afford it. I would say the second thing that I see a lot of first time home buyers, or just home buyers in general, a big mistake that I see them making is that they're waiting till the last second, right? They're waiting till they're 30 days to have to make a move. And
Mm-hmm.
so if people would just start a little bit earlier, I think that allows us to set the expectations a little bit clearer, where I'll say, hey, you know what? Based off of what you're looking for, this is the price point that you would afford. However, you qualify for up to X amount, right? So then we put it back on their plate and say, hey, you know what? You use the discretion. You know yourselves better than we know you. So now it's up to you to decide, kind of what route you want to go. And then we're just here as a resource to provide you options.
Nice, nice. So I have a comment here from Taylor Janice over LinkedIn. He says, 100%. Yes, buying a home is a long-term play, and
Yep.
too much of our society doesn't want to wait. Influencers are quick to push crypto and stocks to make money quick. It doesn't end up working for most people. I mean, that's a great, great,
Wow.
great comment, Taylor. That's exactly what we're talking about here. It's like we see home ownership as something that it's a long term thing. I always tell people you get the benefit of two things. You're investing, and that's true savings inadvertently, because I would say it's kind of like we look at the stock market and we look at crypto. A lot of people talk about those things, especially as I said, millennials. You find Generation Z, they talk about it before they'll look at home ownership. But it's the same thing as, say, I was related to investing in a 401k, or
Mhm.
investing in the stock market long term, not short term, because it's the same way of dollar cost averaging. So dollar cost averaging is when you're making long term plays in the stock market or in assets, that are actually set or projected to increase in value. It's the same thing with real estate. You are paying a mortgage, but the benefit of paying a mortgage, is that you paying for a place to live, which you're going to have to do anyway,
Uh-huh.
right? But you are inadvertently investing money that is actually appreciating, right? Because of number one, you're paying down your principal, so you are going to get as you pay down your principal, your equity increases, and then on top of that, you're looking at the projected value of the home, right? As you see in Arizona, homes are increasing by what, 3%?
Yeah, right now it's about 4%.
4%. So that's huge. So there's not too many investments where 4% increase year over year. You can guarantee you that, right? And then on top of that, as I said, the benefit of you having a place to live. So yeah, that's a great comment, Taylor. But as we move forward, we got another question. Is if you could give just one piece of advice to someone looking to buy a home in 2025, what would that advice be? I mean, I'll do the round robin. Each one of y'all can take a stab at that question, because there's so much advice in 2025 that I can give people on how to buy on buying a home in 2025. But I mean, I'll start with you, Caleb.
So I think one of the things is that if buying a home is a goal of yours in 2025, reach out to us, today. Don't wait until the last second. This way we can at least set you up on a plan and we can set expectations up for you. It's also super helpful to work with, I think, somebody local who understands your market, and who does a lot
Hmm.
of business in that market. Because, if I'm originating loans across in Florida, yes, I could do it, but I'm not going to know all the ins and outs of all the great programs like Hoper that we have access to. So I think working with somebody local is important. It gives you that personal touch, but reach out early, right? Don't wait till the last minute, because, if there's something that we can help you with when it comes to those three pillars, whether it's your income, your credit, or your assets, this gives us the opportunity to be way ahead of the game to go ahead and do it. And the last thing you want to do is rush, the biggest purchase of your life.
Nice, nice.
I love that, Caleb. I would probably say that you would want to really look for a lender that is going to take the time, not just a mortgage loan officer, but I like to call them a mortgage practitioner, like Caleb, that is going to really dissect everything and have that. I love what Caleb said. He said we just have that raw conversation, right? And that's what a lot of people need at some point. And I think if you find somebody in your corner that can really have those real conversations with you, but while looking at every single option available, knowing the market that they're in, I think that would be my advice, is just to be sure that you're not just dealing with somebody on a, no disrespect to the mortgage loan officers that are in an environment where they're just picking up the phone from leads calling
Right.
in. But certainly there is something to be said about a consultation, relationship building, an understanding of every part of your loan file, to actually make that decision to go forward. So that's what
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, Michael and Caleb. Love those answers. Well, just to kind of consolidate everything for me on the real estate side in 2025, it's kind of like it's so like so much information, so much chaos, so much changes. Even from the start of the year, uh, in moving from and even coming in from 2024 into 2025. Just in yeah, I was so surprised that in 2024, this in real estate alone, and in California real estate, we added like 60 new contracts to buying in real estate, right? And then because of the whole antitrust lawsuit, you find that there's so many changes that came down the pipeline in 2024. And then on top of that, the rates change, the rate changes in 2024 to 2025. Then we have the government changes, we have the administration changes. So everybody, if I found that a lot of people were just, there was so much information that was coming at people as we started the year. One of the things that, just to cut through all the noise, I try to make people understand is come up with a plan, right? In 2025, you're going to have a plan of what homeownership looks like. What is it going to, why are you buying a home right now? It's not going to be just a cookie cutter where you call them on the phone and you actually transact, you help them buy a home anymore. One of the things that I kind of implemented in my business, moving forward, is always doing an orientation. It doesn't matter how much you know, right? Because I want to, and I always tell all my clients is like, um, at the end of the day, my goal is not to help you buy, or not to help you buy a home, but it's the main goal for me is to educate you about home ownership. So that way you feel more comfortable making that big decision, because it's a huge decision. It's a life decision now. It's over $500,000 that you're gonna be spending, right? So a phone call is not just gonna cut it. I mean, and you gotta be able to. And the thing about it is, I make them feel very comfortable about asking the questions, asking questions. A lot of us, a lot of times, what I was seeing is that a lot of people tend to think that it's more transactional in this business when it's not now. It's more relationship. Where number one, you have to make somebody feel comfortable about getting in, especially in Southern California, about diving into to home ownership when you're looking at the price ranges. That sticker shock is crazy. I mean, I've seen in Arizona, not saying that I haven't looked at. I have clients that have looked in Arizona, and I'm seeing like what they're getting for $1 million out there is.
It's crazy, right?
I'm like, damn, that's like a whole compound, a couple of acres. you know. but at the same time, but what I'm seeing, what in California, when people say spend $1 million, you're looking at a couple of square foot, right? 1,500 to 20 to 2,000, 2,500 square foot. So that's something that I try to educate my clients on, is try to make sure that they are actually aware of the whole process from start to finish, right? Make sure they understand it's not just me telling you what to do, or me taking care of the whole transaction. There's a level of transparency that has to go into every transaction that I try to make sure that they're aware of. Because I always end my orientations and saying, hey, you know what? I don't work with everybody. I work with people who want to be homeowners. All right, who want the result of homeownership. If you want that result, right, I'm the guy. But if it's something where, hey, you're still trying to figure it out, yeah, I'm here to help you and to educate you. You don't have to go with me, but I want you, when you get out there and you step out there, into the wild, wild west of real estate, that you are able to know at least some of the terms that they're throwing at you, to know at least somehow to navigate yourself around some of the process of real estate, to understand that it starts off here and ends here, right? And then there's a whole in between of escrow and all this stuff. So that's how I approach it. It doesn't matter what level they're at. I approach it like that. And it's something that I see that a lot of you break down that wall and that barrier. The first thing too is this. I'm always now having everybody talk to a mortgage agent or loan officer first. Why is because I always tell everybody, like, you're diagnosed before you're prescribed. I can't tell you if you want to buy a home and you say, okay, well, even if you have the best credit and everything, I'm like, you want to buy a home, the first thing you're going to need is to know exactly, to diagnose where you're at. To know, in order for me to prescribe the home for you, you have to go to the mortgage agent. He's going to diagnose your financial situation. He's going to dissect everything, and then he's going to allocate a number for you that you feel comfortable with. Then I would take that number and we can go find those homes out there. So those are the two things that I kind of really started really implementing coming in from 24 to 25, is because that sets us up to be able to talk about a plan of action. Where do you want to go from in the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself? Are you seeing yourself staying here, or are you seeing yourself, just like Michael said, 9 times people refinance, right, in their lifetime? They say the average person stays out in Southern California in a home for 5 years. So everybody's actually, there's a revolving door in home ownership. It might have changed because, number one, people they find that people are staying a little bit longer because they're kind of scared of actually the price ranges out there. But you see the average is around 5 years. So yeah, I mean, so that's some of the things that I've kind of the advice I try to give my clients, to give people out there about in 2025 about home ownership, because home ownership in 2025 is way different than it was in 2020. It's way different.
For sure.
Yeah. So I mean, this conversation is a great conversation to be had as we start off the first quarter and we go into as we go into the third month of 2025, because one of the things that we always try to discuss here is number one, how can we help as many people understand the importance of buying real estate, of becoming a homeowner. As we talked about, some of the things we touched on is a wealth gap. That wealth gap between minority communities we need that. It's still something that we have to work on. And we see that there's 2 ways in which we can actually do it. The foundation of wealth in the United States of America is real estate. So being in this game of real estate, being in this business of real estate, I always try to show, especially people in our communities, that number one, owning real estate, helping the future generation buy real estate, passing on real estate. That's going to help in terms of making the future a lot better when it comes to closing that wealth gap. So one of the things that, as we kind of close out the show, because we have like 4 more minutes, is we always have a saying, and this is William saying, because this is how the show started. We started talking about personal issues. We try to bring a lot of, because home ownership, we've come to understand, is not just about buying a home. It's a lot of personal things that go into it, and personal discussions we have with our clients. And one of the things that we kind of discovered, we always ask, is that they say that buying in relationships, right? Relationships play a huge part in success, especially as William said, one of his mentors told him that if the two important decisions you're gonna make in life is the person you marry and the career you choose, right? Now the thing about that is that I love hearing the opinions of our guests on that as we close out the show. Is how do you see that as an important factor in terms, because I mean, home ownership is a huge thing right now, and we're seeing that number one is having a 2-income household is so important in terms of even being able to afford a home. So in your life, Caleb, do you have you? I don't know if you're married or not, but do you see that as something that determines your success in life?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's funny that you were saying that because one of my top real estate partners, young guy, 23 years old, making over $500,000 a year. I was giving him this advice is that my business didn't really take off until the moment that I decided to get married. And I think, as a man, you put the pressure on yourself where it's a good responsibility, right? To have somebody to care for. But I agree. I think the most important decision that you can make, on this earth is the person that you marry because the person that you're going to be with is going to support you in that career choice, right? And especially, and I don't even have to, I'm preaching to the choir here. Our industry is insane, right? It's very stressful,
Yeah.
very high turnover. It's very variable. It can, some months you can make a ton of money, some months you might not make any. And so having that support corner, that support in your corner is going to be the most important thing that you can do for yourself. So, my wife, I couldn't do anything without her. She's been with me since I got into lending. And so she's been my support and my rock. And I agree. There's two things that I think people need to know is that homeowners have over a 40% net worth that is higher than somebody who's renting. And also married couples who are, in unison when it comes to financial decisions have a higher net worth than couples who are not in unison.
Man, say that again.
Real.
So that's
Preach,
the important
preach, Caleb.
statistics, man. That is a very important. So I mean, I know we asked Michael, but you want to take a stab at that? What do you think about the most important things, the two most important decisions you'll make as a man is the spouse, the career you choose, and the person that you actually decide to spend the rest of your life with.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't say it any better than Caleb, man. Like that was spot on, Caleb. Like that is a very, very critical decision in your life to decide who you're gonna marry. And then I'm in the same position, like to have somebody in my corner that was with me through those 18 years of the mortgage arena, and now to jump to what I'm doing now and just continues to be there in my corner. We're actually celebrating 20 years this year, so
Oh,
that's
congratulations.
yeah, that's 20 years of her life. But
We get it.
don't send her the recording. Don't send her the recording of this, okay? But yeah, I couldn't agree more, Caleb. And I love that story, man.
Yeah, I love that. I love both of your stories, both of your answers to that, man, because that's so important. So as we end out, we just let everybody know where they can find you, Caleb, and how they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Just either Google me or Instagram, Facebook, Caleb Salazar. I'll pop up there. And if you ever have any questions when it comes to your mortgage needs, whether you're in California, in Arizona, let me know. We'll be more than happy to help.
Awesome. And Michael, let the people know where they can find you too.
Yeah, you can find me online as well. Ahoper.org is a great site to check out, and aharealty.org is another good site. So find us there, learn about the programs, and appreciate you letting us be on this this event tonight, Clinton.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Well,
man.
I appreciate you all coming through and talking about real estate. As we end out, I want to say thank you to our guests for being here. And yes, we'll see you on the next show. We'll see you in the next week. I think it's on. Well, we'll see you in the next week. And peace.